Peace and blessings, Empowerment Tribe. Welcome to the WUCUSU Lounge, where we talk personal growth, progress, and personal transformation. I'm your host, Brother Ajay Taimba, educator, author, community organizer, empowerment coach, and author of WUCUSU, a self-empowerment handbook. So relax, tune in, and let's get ready to build together. Peace and blessings, families. Brother Ajay Taimba from WUCUSU Empowerment. And you already got the breakdown on what we do, what we're here to do. I want to, before we get into the nitty gritty today, I want to say that this particular episode is sponsored by Baba Afam, the founder of Strategic Black Empowerment Training, where he teaches the teachings of Dr. Amos Wilson. And has a GoFundMe campaign to raise money to get dual citizenship in Sierra Leone because he did a DNA testing and found that he has roots or lineage in Sierra Leone. But he has to get there at a certain time to be part of this program to get the dual citizenship. He desperately needs our help, family. He's raising money. He needs 3,000 more to go, and if a bunch of us put a little bit in the pot, we can help the brother get there. When he gets there, he's going to get 13 passports to other African countries. His plan is that once he gets there, to take his organization and now spread those teachings to these different African countries. So it's not just for him, he's also looking out for us. And so we definitely support that. I want to say that. I'm going to say it one more time toward the end of the program, but we want to support our brother as best we can. We are all we got, but we are all we need. Having said that, I want to introduce our guest. She actually has been a guest on the other channel, Harlem Liberation School. And I want to introduce her by giving her bio. Lawrese Brown is a school to work transition expert. She's the author of the book, I Don't Have to Go to College. Discover well paying jobs that don't require a 4 year college degree. That's being used by counselors and community leaders in New Jersey, New York, and Florida. She's also a LinkedIn top voice and thought leader whose articles and insights on communication and talent development have been featured in Business Insider Inc. magazine, Chief Learning Officer, Talent Developer, and Huffington Post. It goes without saying that our sister is qualified to teach us and give us some insight on how we move and pivot as it relates to this whole idea of careers. And at this critical time, the political climate, we don't have to get into it. We really need to rethink a lot of things, right? Because the landscape has changed in so many ways. And she's here to help us. I want to bring her in and welcome her to WUCUSU. Hold on one second. Peace, Sister Lawrese.
Oh, Brother Ajay, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for writing that book and for emerging as a thought leader in that area. That this is an empowerment channel. People think empowerment may think I'm going to lift weights, I'm going to go jogging, I'm going to get my feet done. A whole bunch of things come to mind, right? But part of our empowerment is everything within the realm of human activity that makes us better, more capable. And one of those things is how we choose our careers. So thank you for being a thought leader in that area. That's very important. I want to get right into it. I want to say first, I have some comments here. We have, oh, there's the queen. She says, WUCUSU family. Sister Lawrese, WUCUSU is our greeting at our organization, Harlem Liberation School, means wake up, clean up, stand up.
Oh, I love that.
Yes. And
Well,
we
Kusu
got
in
my brother.
return.
That's Baba Fam. That's the brother who's doing the GoFundMe there under Meridian Touch Yoga. Peace, brother.
Yes,
Thank you for coming in. We're gonna get you that money, brother. We working together, and we hope that we're successful. All right.
yes.
Now that said, let us get to the nitty gritty. Now many people today feel stuck in jobs. And I'm really talking, Sister Larissa, about the 35 and up crew, more of the millennials on up. We're not at this point, we're not really talking about the high school going to college. They feel like they're in these jobs they don't really love. They don't feel like there's room for advancement. From your perspective, as a school work expert, a career expert of sorts, what are the first steps you think people should take to discover new career options that maybe they didn't even think about or realize they qualify for?
Yeah, this is a common question that comes up, and why I wrote the book. I don't have to go to college, because at about the same age of your core audience, I had the same wake up call. I was like, well, my parents, who were born in 1951, so they were the boomers, right? And they just before we integrated, black middle class values were, you are going to be successful if you do well in school, which implied college, right? Go to college and work hard. And so I followed that route. All my brothers and sisters and I, we were taught to follow that route. And so I note that, because often when we feel stuck, it's because many people are like, I did that. And guess what? It didn't work, right? Either I didn't get the job that I wanted post college, or I did get a job, but this is not what I even went to college for in the first place. Or like, I actually worked really hard and I wasn't given the opportunities that other people were given. But often feeling stuck is feeling like this formula, this roadmap that I was given, I'm looking up now, and it didn't work. So what do I do? So I want to acknowledge that. And the first thing to recognize is that, like, we never knew our options, which again was the point of I don't have to go to college. Is college, the college degree became yet not only our a level of education, it became respectability. Parents were like, oh, you have to go to college, right? Like, that became our way of saying, oh, we're good. And again, not to say that there aren't factors. There are. We do tend to, as a culture, discriminate against people who don't um, go to college, right? Even when we say certain things, like a 2-year college is just as valid as a 4-year, but we tend to look at certain colleges as the standard. But I'm just mentioning this really in the bigger picture of, like, college became this, it became more than just a level of education you needed for a job. It really became this, you're a good person, you're smart, you're capable, you're ready for the world. And it was never designed to be all that. So if I'm at a space now where you're stuck, I would encourage you to look at the opportunities, not in the form of school, but in the form of the labor market. And this is the same thing I teach to students: is what's the job, right? You need a level of schooling that matches for the job you want. It's not this formula that we were given anymore of, I'm just going to go to college and then voila, I'm ready for whatever job I want to do. And so a great example of that, and you'll hear it most commonly, is there's a negative net growth right now in most of the service sector. Again, media, finance isn't often growing. We're seeing that. But where we are seeing growth is in healthcare. And of course, some of that is because we have an aging population. But another element of that is because we have a labor shortage in healthcare. And not around the doctors, right? And not even just around the nurses, but the technicians, the surgical technicians, the physical therapists, the other people who work alongside, the radiation therapists, right? The people who work alongside to give you the appropriate diagnosis. Most people don't know about those jobs, and those jobs don't require a 4-year college degree. So if you're feeling stuck, big picture, I would say recognize you were given a roadmap that was probably outdated, or quickly outdated by the time you got to college. It's okay to let it go, and to think again, not to use school, what level of school, as your metric of success, but look to the labor market itself and say, well, these are the opportunities that are available, that are growing, that we expect to continue to grow, and like, which ones are of interest to me? Which ones am I even curious about exploring more?
Hmm. You know, when I was coming up, uh, you would have thought that going to college came second to breathing air and drinking water. I felt I
Yes.
felt sometimes that I was tied to a chair with a with an apple in my mouth and a gun in my head, like, you going to college? Oh, you going to go to college? Type of thing.
Yes.
I joke my mother about that sometimes. Why do you think that? And this is, my parents were yeah, boomers, baby boomers. Yeah.
Yes. It's the
Why do
boomers.
you think they were so adamant about that? What was the psychology behind that, as you see it?
Two things. I There was a time where we were a service sector economy, probably around the 80s and 90s. Remember, people started to take, people like, when I went to school, there was home ec, or there was this. The reality is, there was a point in the 80s and 90s, advanced manufacturing was like originally manufacturing, excuse me, and farming, right? Like, farming, we already know, went out the way during the Industrial Revolution, but then it became manufacturing. That was like, you don't have to go to college, you don't have to focus on continued education, just go into that space. But that space dwindled. in America. And so I say this, college at one point was tied to the service economy, right? It was tied to like, we're becoming more of a service economy, right? We're becoming more consultant driven, or we don't need people doing the building, the production. We need people who are doing the research, doing the service, right? Developing, using their mind to come up with new ways of serving customers. So that's one thing. At one point in the 80s, I tell people, and even the 90s, you can make a case for college. But the other piece of it is, especially, and we go back to civil rights, right, with the Higher Education Act, because, you know, Black people, we've always had an emphasis on education. When you looked at our institutions, it was our ticket that everybody was taught, you're going to get a better life and you're going to be viewed more favorably. I can't tell you, which I do think, you know, parents, especially Black parents, you want you're going to invest in what you believe is going to give your children the best opportunity, that in some form is an equalizer, even though we know it's not. But let's say, you know, it's sold as this will allow you to have equal footing, or at least equal opportunity, or to be seen as just as valuable as talent. And so those two things are important to keep in mind. There's an orientation of the mind that comes along with respectability. And we even hear this from people whose parents are first generation college students, especially saw it among the boomers. But anybody, and people who feel like if they didn't get the chance to go to college themselves, there's this real big push on like, my child going to college says we made it, right? Says they're good, we did well to raise them and they're intelligent. So that's one element of it that just took off. And the other element of it is, one time there were the best jobs that were tied to those service sector skills. But we are not in that time anymore. We are in a more complex time where, one, we know for sure, just because you went to college, you could be terrible of a low character and go to college. You could also have gotten straight C's and got a job from college. So that idea that we need to put so much on it is not there. And the idea that it's going to offer upward mobility, right? That was the key piece of it, is like, in America, we sell the bill of goods. If you work hard, you're going to be successful. We know that's Black middle class values. That's a lot of rural values they're given to. It's like, go to college and it's baked in. What we saw is that upward mobility, especially for low income students, for Black and Latino students, was not there, because ultimately now your success in college comes down to network effects, right? Like, who do you know? Who do you know that's going to give you that first opportunity? And who do you know that's even going to tell you how to pick an opportunity that leads to greater opportunities in the future versus just get you into a dead end opportunity? You know, who do you know also that's going to tell you how to negotiate that first salary that you get, when one day maybe you wake up 5 or 6 years later in your career and you're asking just for like cost of living, or maybe you're like, oh, I got a $10,000 raise, and you find out that other people are making like $30,000 more than you in the same
Mm-hmm.
position. So again, all that to say, network effects is also a key piece of why we now look at college and say, well, you're not doing what you're supposed to do. This is just all a game that reinforces classism.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, when we spoke yesterday, you used this term retooling. You talked about
Yeah.
the importance of us being able to retool ourselves. Could you first of all define for us broadly what that means, and then tell us what does that look like when we retool? What does that look like in practice?
Yes. And so there's two, retooling at this time, especially when we talk about artificial intelligence, is a recognition of the importance broadly. Like, so a tool is just like a hammer, right? If I'm like, I need to get something done, here's a tool. So retooling at work, in the workplace, at one time, um, it was like faxes and phones and voicemails. Think about it like that, right? Like, can you use the
Right.
phone? Can you not? It's a retooling is best thought of among telecommunication, right? How do we communicate? Then over time, it really became the internet. And not just that we were connected, but think of the different tools like that we had to use alongside of communicating via the internet, whether it was
Mm-hmm.
Google Drive, whether it was email, whether it was Messenger and Teams. It was like there's or before there was Zoom, what was that? Skype, right? Like
Right. That's right.
alongside that growth in technology has always been a new tool or a new way of connecting that we've been accountable to know. Now, in the age of AI, the retooling is, do you understand even what machine learning is and the tools that then will result from that? And for anybody who's like, all right, AI essentially is a broad term for artificial intelligence, but what undergirds artificial intelligence is machine learning, which is to say, how do we teach a computer, right, to learn from data how to spot patterns, make
Mm-hmm.
decisions based off of those patterns, or make a recommendation. And the irony is, well, not the irony, but what's unspoken is Google is a form of artificial intelligence that we don't think of, but it's a traditional form. And the difference between Google as artificial intelligence and say Chat GPT is novelty. So what do I mean by that, right? The panic, Google's been around. We've all been like, how do we use Google? What made Google artificial intelligence is you prompted at the top, searching for right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
but the thing is, they could only give you answers that were predetermined in some way. I can't give you some that's not written on the website. I can give you a website that's already there, right? But
Mm-hmm.
now, even you look at Gemini, what's on top of it is I don't have to give you a website. I give you a summary of all these websites. That's generative. And that's what I mean. So, again, I'm breaking it artificial intelligence down because when we're talking about a tool, we're usually talking about something that's going to change the way we previously communicated with each other at work, but now that's going to change the way we achieve results, right? Because humans don't have to be the ones analyzing, the ones summarizing, and ultimately, the future goal is to be not to be the ones doing, depending on what company that you're at. So retooling first is to think about, do where can you collaborate, use your thinking alongside technology to produce a better result. Most commonly is Chat GPT. Of course, there's Claude. There's all these other, you can just Google artificial intelligence for everything now, for contract writing, for presentations. Canva has a lot of artificial intelligence for documents. But the main point is to say, where are you working alongside any type of artificial intelligence, meaning where you can put an input and get a greater output than you would get by yourself. So that's the expectation today. The other thing we talked about was reskilling. Now, the skill part is a more human part, right? Of course, you can build the skill to learn to use a tool. But when we talk about reskilling, it's how do you leverage? And by leverage, I mean take the abilities you already have and maybe use them in a different way or in a different function or in a different sector. I think a great example of that, Brother Ajay, with you is teaching, right? Or people who are teachers, because ultimately, compact within teaching, you have to be able to take an idea, you have to be able to scaffold it or break it down into elements or aspects that somebody can learn, whether it's in elementary or high school or beyond. That's most common, of course, in the schoolhouse, but we're seeing this also show up at organizations when they talk about onboarding and recruitment or bringing people in and training them. When they start, where at there, these are in talent development. A key aspect of the first touch point is, do you have a curriculum that brings people on board? People do it in creative ways from movies at some companies, but people also do it in traditional ways where they're like, all right, take this test, right? Or like, review this curriculum we've done for you and you'll be ramped up, as they say. Again, big picture, the idea is that you're taking something, right, that you're already doing and you're thinking about, well, where can I do this maybe in the private sector if you did it public, or in a different function or role. And many roles, especially if you're serving as a manager, your job is to deliver instructions, clear, concisely, actionable, and also to guide people to new levels of learning, to coach them, right? So again, coaching is a fantastic example that plays on the elements of teaching. And also we see at functional level, talent development, especially balancing emergent talent, plays on those same skill sets, right? How do you take information, make it digestible, and also help somebody build their understanding of not only of that information, but how to use it? So retooling and reskilling. Tooling, communicate, especially in the age of AI, but skilling, how do we take the abilities you already have and use it either for a new opportunity or in a new function?
So, listening to you, you're hitting on another empowerment sort of principle, which is the ability to be flexible and nuanced in our thinking, to be able to pivot, to say, oh, this isn't working. Let me move over here and see how this is going on. But now I want to know, um, what are some affordable, practical ways that the average person watching this, they're interested, you got them, they're learning something new, and now they say, okay, how can I do that without having to go to some back to school or 4 year college? Is there a way, is there a practical, accessible way the average person watching this can retool or upskill without having to go to college per se?
Yes. So, two answers. One is community colleges have become our primary workforce institutions, which is a way of saying like community college programs are 2 years or less, right? 2 years if you want some form of associates, but really less than if you're looking for some diploma or license, which is more common among the trades. And I would say go there because community colleges specifically are accountable for paying attention to what is in demand. And when I say in demand, where is there a shortage, right? Where do they need talent now? Where is there a shortage of jobs, both on a local and state level? Which ultimately, that's people's biggest constraint is that we're looking for jobs where we are, right? Like where I, if I'm in, if you're in New York, you'd be like, yeah, that'd be great to go to Florida if that's where you want to go. But right now, give me some money in New York. And so community colleges immediately, even before committing, just go online. Go online at your local community college. Look at the programs that they're offering, and I promise you, they'll give you a breakdown of what the program is and what jobs are connected to it. That's one. I would say the other often overlooked and cheapest form, or cheapest in terms of money, but not in terms of your energy, is talking to people. At the end of the day, again, in this with the labor market in mind, if you're anywhere, I know, listen, some of the reasons I tell people AI has a chance of taking over, I was like, y'all, is people don't even like people anymore, right? Like the reason why people are like the reason why they're sending avatars out first on dating apps is because people don't want to go through dating. It's not like if they wouldn't build these things. I'm saying if there wasn't a dissatisfaction that people have with some of these experiences. So I'm also hopeful AI will take us back the other direction to realize like we're humans, right? There's imperfection along the way. But the main point that I'm saying is another tool, easy way to reskill is talk to people. People are willing to tell you, oh yeah, this job that's interesting. Like, tell me more about that. Yeah, did you hear about this event? Like, go to places, and it doesn't even have to be. I know some people are like, I'm not talking to nobody when I'm in line. After work, I'm tired. Well, go to a bookstore, go to book signings, libraries. These are places that tonight you can even look online. Sometimes food banks or temples or different places, right? Like, it just means you don't have to go looking for, can you give me a job? But you do want to go looking to say, if I talk to one interesting person today about what they're seeing or opportunities, that is going to give you a path forward that you didn't know before. And so, yes, community colleges for looking directly about the programs that you can do that'll immediately help you shift towards an in-demand job where they have a labor shortage, so they're trying to get you in immediately. But also throughout your career, talk to people. I promise you, a lot of the information you want is hidden. And by hidden, I mean not obvious. And some of the opportunities you want aren't as well. And I find people will be happy to tell you, if they find you curious and well intentioned, to tell you, yeah, actually, here's a contact. Go talk to this person. They can tell you a little more. Or they're hiring at this company if you want to look to that. Or for things like nursing, you know what? You probably didn't know some places will hire you. It's I don't know if it's a nurse's assistant, but some places, if you do, you start in facilities or you do this, there's a program. Yeah, we'll hire you. And that's the point, is there's creative ways to get to what you want that you'll usually find if you can find someone already in that industry.
Hmm. Hmm. Another thing that we talked about yesterday, you mentioned this concept of high demand careers, right?
Yes.
So I want to know what industries or job roles are currently in high demand, and why is it so important, especially I'm going to say for Black workers and working class folks, to target these high growth, high demand fields?
Less competition. Yeah, and here's the thing, when something it's you say things like less competition and people are like, and there's a connotation to that of like um you're not going after something with the like you're not going after something of the highest caliber. No, no, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is this means that if it's you versus somebody who they know, you have a far better chance of getting it when it's less competition. Than somebody when it's a lot of competition. What we've again found is it's network effects that's usually the differentiator, and not just network effects. The recruiting firm, right? Oh, such and such, I owe this person a favor, or they went through a recruiting firm. So if you weren't a part of the recruiting tool, you were never going to be there anyway. Oh, it's okay. We source from LinkedIn, and we're looking like when I say less competitive, what I mean is more options for you. Doesn't work out one place, fine. Go to another and another and another and another. It means, oh, everything is not over if something doesn't work out one time. So, two things. One, less competitive, meaning you have more options and opportunities if you don't know someone. And then less competitive also. Oh, it didn't work out that one company. There's another, there's another, there's another, there's another, there's another. Right? Like the opportunities, less competitive, more opportunities for you. That's the big picture. That's what in demand is. Why is it so important that we focus on it? It goes back to network effects again. So two things. It goes back to, we're all taught at this point culturally, the students will say, I'm going to school for a job. Meaning like, why, and that's why they say, well, why isn't what I'm learning related to what I'm gonna do at school? It used to be a joke. Remember, everybody was like, I don't use anything I use from college. It used to be a joke.
Right.
Now it's a justification for why students don't want to go. They're like, I don't use anything. Like, who's gonna use what they learn in college, right? But the point of that is the labor market wins. But I want people to hear that again. Colleges and schools in general, but college, for your colleges, they get paid because you're there. There's no incentive, there's no focus, there's no priority on them saying, oh, yeah, we have an industry connection. That's why a lot of them here go to the Career Center, but they're not really invested in some of those partnerships that allow you to understand, well, where is the industry headed? What are the skills I need to know? What are people in that exact sector saying? They don't need those relationships because they really don't get paid. They get paid whether they have those relationships or not, right? They get paid, you're in the seat. So what? I want to lay that foundation. But you zoom out and the labor market wins. In demand jobs are specifically called, they're identified that way because the labor market, employers are saying, this is the talent we need. This is where we're short. And some of those showed up during this recent government shutdown, and they showed up as um, air traffic controllers, right? And again, I people often say trades and the skilled trades, and people think of plumbers and electricians and welders, and that's absolutely true. And there's different types of welding. There's underwater welding where you get paid far more than you will ever get paid for somebody with a 4-year college degree, because it's a specialization, right? To be underwater for that long and to work with those tools. But I would say zoom out. Yes, it's technical skills. So trades, specialized trades, those are technical skills. And by technical, I mean you're usually working with some kind of tool or hardware that requires not just a interpersonal expertise. Hey, I'm communicating, but actually it's hardware, right? It's something that you have to know how to use, know how to level it out, get it diagnosed. Like, it's technical, right? It's a technical
Mhm.
hard expertise. And okay, so I want to zoom out. I don't want to get lost in it, but in demand, in demand means more opportunity, less competition, right? It's in demand because it's a low supply, so more opportunity for you. And then also in demand because it answers to the needs of the labor market. It means that employers, the people who are giving you the jobs, are saying these are the skills we need. This is the talent we need, and this is important for Black and Brown people. This is important for us because ultimately it's where the opportunities are, plain and simple. Like, it's where, and not just for the short term, for the long term. And for example, I think they said they need something like 700,000 mechanics. I can promise you, auto mechanics, this year alone, they're not going to get close to scratching the surface of 700,000 mechanics. The other piece, why is that important to you? Because if you become a mechanic, essentially you'll get a better rate, right? In demand means like it's also more in your favor. You can negotiate higher, right? Versus being like
Mhm.
commodified, like, oh, Ajay, you said 16, Lawrese said, and I'm like, and I'm an employer, and I'm like, I could take either one of you. So now maybe Ajay, you or me are like, well, we'll lower our price. No, you're more beneficial. They want to get you on. But the other
Mhm.
piece also of being in demand, especially in specialized skill sets, is you can be entrepreneurial. Do a couple years, you got your license, learn how to keep active, and go on your own. And again, specialized technical skills. People think of the trades, healthcare. That's not going anywhere in the long term. But even things like people who are what is it called? I want to say more. Is that morticians? Anyways, you got people who know what to do with dead bodies, and that can sound morbid, but what I mean by that, that's like, it's a
Hope
technical
ain't got none of
skill
y'all watching this show, getting us in trouble with the law.
but it's a technical skill set, right? People underestimate that. Like, it's a
Mhm.
technical skill set you need to know after a body is like, to be able to pick up so two things here. If you don't want to be a cop, but you want to work in forensic techs are in demand, right? Those people who
Mhm.
investigate, take pictures, who know what to do with the blood, who fingerprint. But the other piece of it is even those people who are morticians and things like that, or who have to, there's different ways people are even cremating bodies, right? Sustainable. And so, oh, the other thing I would say is pay attention to energy, the types of energy
Say
we're
it
in,
again.
especially energy. energy,
Energy. Mm-hmm.
um, in the age of AI. So not just I know we think of energy, and in New Jersey it's PSE&G, but what I'm saying is the types of energy that we're going to use is going to change and be more in demand because of data centers, HVAC
Mm-hmm.
technicians, heating, ventilation, air conditioning. In the age of AI, data centers like the cloud is really just a whole bunch of servers that can get really hot. So
Right.
when we'll see this, when the internet is down or when the apps are down today, it's usually because we don't have enough energy, right? Powering those data centers. But that's to say we have to start thinking. I think this is the bigger picture here. In demand, pay attention to the labor market and you will understand where opportunity is. So if people are talking about, yes, skilled trades and energy, think about like, oh, they're going to build that center. Oh, they're going to build that data center. It's supposed to power, it takes a lot of power for AI. It's going to need a lot of cooling systems. Oh, if I know that, I'm always going to have a job because every top company now is building data centers. And I'm not even stuck. I could have a job anywhere. And so that's what I mean, big picture for Black and
Mm-hmm.
brown people. We have to understand, and we were talking about this before, the market doesn't correct for morality. It doesn't care we went to
Right.
college and gave our all and didn't end up there. The market asks for outcomes. And ultimately the outcome that you want to be tied to is, can I get an opportunity, a job or a freelance, or can I become an entrepreneur because my customer base is there? And that's what in demand jobs help you understand explicitly. This is what companies are saying they want. This is what people are saying that they want and will pay for. And that's where I'm going to go. And that needs to be how we answer, how one component certainly of how we look for opportunities short and long term.
I like that in your answer. You're letting people know that if you choose to work traditional jobs, i.e., working for a company or an individual, that's cool. But also, you're saying that that doing the right thinking about the career and the right research and knowing the labor market can also position you to jump off on your own entrepreneur. So for those of you who are like, I don't want to work for nobody, we're not telling you where to work, right? We're telling you how to look at this thing, right?
Yes.
And so
Yes.
that you can make the best decision for you, for your interests, your skill set, your gifts, your preferences. So I think this is very, very, very important discussion. Now, a lot of people want to make the career change. One of the things I'm talking about doing my coaching on this channel is fear. Getting over our fear of change, fear of risk, fear of people joking you, fear of people saying you're not worthy or capable. And I know a lot of people want to make career change, but they're scared. And they're scared of failing. They're scared of starting over, particularly people in their middle age people. Last thing a 55, maybe a 60-year-old person is not retired wants to hear is, I gotta start over. I've been working in this place for 30 years and I gotta start a whole new. So, or maybe feeling they're not good enough. I remember getting in a doctorate program, Lawrese. I was 40 years old. Everybody in my cohort was in their 20s.
Hmm.
And I was like, whoa. I felt kind of out of like a fish out of water.
Yes.
Um, how do you help the people you work with to kind of overcome that fear, manage it, and kind of build the confidence they'll need to take action proactively in terms of career decisions? Or what would you say to people?
I'd say first take stock of your own strengths. Like, so what happens, and I think your example, Brother Ajay, of the PhD program you were in is a great one. And it goes back to where we started, which is we're usually, our beliefs are built from somebody else's story about the way our life should have gone. So when we're looking at ourselves as non-traditional talent, or the people who are in um, what do they call it? Late bloomers, right? Late bloomers in spaces where the young people seem to be catching up. We think we're immediately at a disadvantage, and that's not the case. What I found, even in myself, as someone who is older or more advanced in my career in these spaces, is that you bring an ability to make decisions based on your values. Because in your 20s, you really don't know, and that's not the case for everybody. But there is an ability to be like, do I really know what I want? No, you're still experimenting and living. You might know, but do you know the full extent that you have as you've matured and lived some lessons and understand more deeply what you want to do and what you don't, what your preferences are, how you learn, um, what your values that drive, even why you are in school in the first place? So, one, I would say take stock of the character. what and your values and how those values will make you have drive decisions, because that's a key aspect of success in any program and in achieving any result. And I would say the other piece um, to this question, when we talk about what is it? We're talking about being not being stuck, but when we're talking about doing things later on and fear, is recognizing like the main question. So the couple things. Okay, the stakes are not that high. I want to say that. Usually, here, as somebody who's been an entrepreneur, who still is entrepreneurial, who has gone into things, the stakes are highest in your head. They're not
Mm,
as high in real life. What do I mean by that?
mm,
Oh, somebody's gonna misunderstand me, or
mm.
do, or they're gonna what you good. So one, what can you do about somebody misunderstanding you?
That's right.
Okay.
Mm,
Oh, somebody's not gonna like me. Was that person they don't like you? Were they gonna help you anyway? Like I think you have to. It's a retraining around fear that really says there's opportunity actually. If I put myself out here, if I say this, yes, some people aren't going to get it, but the more I build the muscle of doing it, that's the other thing, right? There are times you just mention one thing, you're like, I met the right person. We love this story. I love that story too, right? When you're like, I said this and it was so serendipitous, and like I said I wanted to work in this, and the person behind me was like, here's an opportunity. That happened one time when I was at a conference actually. So I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but I'm saying
mm,
when that becomes the standard, we lose ourselves and feel like losers, when the
mhm,
reality is it's the person you become from having a tolerance for risk, right? Having being courageous enough to say, hey, this is what I want. I'll tell a story. When I work with students, we usually do this exercise. It's called, and I learned it from someone. It's called Can I Have Your Corner? It's an improv activity. Everybody stands in a circle. One person's in the center. I got it from Minna Taylor. And the person in the center, the student walks up to somebody who's in the circle and says, Can I have your corner? And the person can say yes or no. Now, what I often find is most of the students in the circle, they'll say, No, you can't have my corner. Because if you say yes, you have to switch, right? You have to then go from being outside in the circle to walking in the middle. And I
mm,
always have to stop it and say, What is going through? Why? How come you don't want to step in the middle? And
mhm.
everybody realizes how minimal they're like how like how I don't want to say foolish because it's not fair, but how like the stakes aren't real. I don't want to be in the middle because what if somebody say no to me? Then you're just gonna ask somebody else. I don't
Right.
I don't
Right.
I don't want to say I don't want to step in the middle because like I don't want okay, so you want okay, so you don't want everybody looking at you. Is there any scenario in life where you want to build the comfort with being seen or observed for extended periods of time by other people, even outside of public speaking, maybe and like public speaking, sure, but like interviews, anytime you have to go up to people. So you're gonna let the fact that you don't like being stared at. And the big picture there, brother AJ, that you know too, is like in our minds, again, where the stakes are high, we also set these scenarios where like if my dream person was over there, I'd go shoot my shot. If my dream job was offered to me and I had to go up to that person, I wouldn't think twice about it. Yes, you would. Yes, you would. Because and that's what you want people to bring up in themselves is like if you're like you're building a muscle,
Mm,
talking about yourself, making a post. The only thing that's gonna die is your ego, because maybe ain't nobody gonna like it. But like it's
right.
really that conversation around fear is like it's usually because you believe something. Oh, if I do this, I'm gonna look stupid. Well, maybe you will, but are you gonna die? Probably not. So maybe you should say, oh, change it to maybe if I do this, you know what? Somebody might see it and be inspired. Or maybe if I do this, I'll just get more comfortable over time putting myself out there. Or maybe if I do this and it doesn't lead to something now, I still met somebody, I learned something about myself. Like I think that's where so what I want to break it down is two key things. Sometimes the fear is bigger in our heads because we put a lot of stakes on anything that's different or new. Oh, I
Mhm.
never put myself out there before. Yeah, so it feels very high stakes. Okay, but that doesn't mean that it's the end or that it's something bad is going to happen, right? The worst thing that's going to happen is somebody's confused and you can't do nothing about that anyway, except keep posting, right? Keep promoting
That's
yourself. They'll
right.
get it eventually. But I think the other piece of it is, in capitalism, in the labor market, we reward risk. We reward people, and I'm not just talking about people who put big capital or leverage, like, oh, I leverage my house for this. That's a form of it, right? Risk being anything with an uncertain or unlikely outcome, right? An uncertain outcome or high likelihood of maybe even an unfavorable outcome. Risk being like, what do you do when things are uncertain? What do you do if you don't know? Are you willing to step up, be brave, be courageous, be confident to go and ask for what you want? And I found a lot of people don't have comfort with that. And so you'll hear people say, "Oh, I wish you had told me." You'll hear that. "I wish you had let me know." "Oh, I wish you had said something." And I would say that is really where fear shows up, is like there's opportunities everywhere, but y'all not saying nothing. And so that fear of looking stupid or looking again, when you work with clients, I don't have the right words. Well, Chat GPT will give you the words now. So put it in there, prompt.
Right.
What can I go up to someone and say, give me some things, right? Like, oh, I don't want to look like, I don't want to look stupid. Okay, what are 5 things happening in my industry right now that I could talk about, right? Like, so all I'm saying is, now that the words are there, now that the language is there, now that some questions are there, are you ready to be someone who goes up to someone and builds that muscle to shoot your shot, to ask for what you want? Because that's what's going to serve you, whether you're entrepreneurial or whether you're, seeking employment, is your ability to be confident in yourself and speak up for yourself.
You know, it's so funny you say that. First of all, those of you watching, thank you for staying with us. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. You're with Brother AJ here and Sister Lawrese Brown, who's an author. She's a school to work transition expert. I kind of class her as kind of like a career, a thought leader in the world of career. She probably would refine that a lot more than I would, but I
No,
think kind
I
of a
wouldn't.
thought leader in this whole career thing. And I want to be clear with you all watching. We, and y'all know who I mean by we, tend to have problems admitting the areas where we're a little soft, need a little work, need some development. And we say stuff like, I don't need a career expert. I don't need a coach. Listen, Kobe Bryant, who was the best player in the game when he retired, had not only his head coach of the team, but he hired outside coaches to
Yeah.
help him repair get over his torn Achilles in the middle of a game, right?
Yes.
To make him faster, to make him have more stamina.
Yes.
Champions aren't thinking about, are not resting on, well, I'm afraid people gonna make fun of me. I don't want to have to spend more time in the gym. They're thinking about how can I maximize my potential. So I want us to have a mindset shift. If you're one of these people that, and that's okay because it's a human thing. If you're afraid, I don't want this, I don't want that. Instead of thinking about the things like the negatives that can happen, think about what might happen if I do get the job interview. What might happen if I ask for the raise and do get it? What might happen if I send? I've been sending stuff to all these different companies, Sister Larice, to to sponsor
Mm-hmm.
one of these two channels or to let us promote their stuff. I'm sending all types of people. I'm not thinking like, oh, what if they reject me? I'm thinking about, whoa, if I get one good one to respond to me and have a conversation, it's over. That's
Yes.
how. So we got to shift how we think. Think more of what happens when or if you win, you get what you want. That's very important.
And I love that you said that, brother Ajay. And the other piece of it is like, I mean, we all gonna die. I'm not saying that to be morbid. I'm saying that to say
That's
you.
that's real.
I say it to say that alone should say like life moved before. Exactly. Yes. Who wants to be a mortician? I'm telling you. See, we all gonna die. She always gonna have a job.
Right. That's perfect timing. That's
And
right.
there's new ways people are cremating people and put them, but to the point. Um, Life was moving before you got here, and life is going to move after you're gone. And so, an element of mindset that you're talking about is depersonalizing it. Like, it's like we make, and I get it. And this is part of what courage is like, you just don't make anything the end of the world. And that's why I actually love the age your audience is, because at this point, you've seen yourself get back up from something that maybe you thought you would. You've seen yourself take a hard fall, and it might have taken some time, or it took some coaching, some encouragement, but you're back up again. Or you want it, and That's some applause. There you go. That's it's like some of these trials, or even sometimes being afraid or doing something and it doesn't, it leads to a failure. You got to depersonalize it. Like it's not even enough to say, oh, it don't. My father used to say all the time. He used to be like, oh, somebody's talking about you. They did it to Jesus, and we'd be like, like, oh wait,
Right,
like you think you're so good, so special that you're not going to have
right.
something happen to you. And I think that's where we have to move out of our
That's
way
right.
too. Is like something is par for the course of living. It's a lesson you learn as you go through
Mhm.
it, and like that's okay, right? Like that is not only okay, that is acceptable. Like it's normal for something not to go the way you planned, even when you try really hard for it to go the way you planned, and for you to what you're talking about, the mindset is the mentality that says, all right, that doesn't have to defeat me though, right? Like so I
Mhm.
would say the biggest piece I want to impart to everybody, to this audience, is that the stakes, where are you making the stakes too high? Like if this doesn't work, that's the end. Every day you hear, you get to try again, right? Like you went to college, maybe didn't get the job you want. It's not the end. It's keeping your mind open to say, well, where's the next opportunity? And what is a small step I can take every day, even if it's reading, going to do something different, right? Like what can I do every day that gets me closer to opportunity, either in the form of meeting new people or in learning a new skill, and allowing yourself to go through development. That's what a coach helps you develop, right? We don't come with everything baked in. I mean, that we already know. We cultivate it. We cultivate it as people. And that's why what Brother Ajay is doing here is so important. Is it's about cultivating a new way of looking at the world, because you're going to bring about what you believe. And if you believe there's opportunity, right? If you believe there's not, ain't nothing nobody could do for you. They could hand it to you and you would still be like, this is not going to work out. And you'd be right because you don't want to do it.
Self-sabotage. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Now, first of all, we're getting ready to come to a close. So, if anyone watching or who joins us later has a question, this would be a good time to submit it, and maybe Sister Lawrese would honor us by answering some of
Yeah.
them. But you got to put them up quick. You can't take all day. Put them up quick. If you got the question, put it up right now. I'll do my best to field it with our sister Lawrese. I had a question. If
Hmm.
someone watching today realizes I'm at this job and I'm just not fulfilled, I could do it. I could do it in my sleep. It makes decent
Hmm.
money, but this ain't doing nothing for me. I'm coming home, I'm demoralized, I'm fatigued, I don't got no energy mentally to do anything. Um, what would you advise them? So a few steps they could take immediately to address that type of dilemma.
Do less. So I'm laughing. But here's what I mean. Here's what I mean. Usually people, there's a and what a great word, Brother Ajay, fulfillment, right? Because sometimes fulfillment is like, oh my God, I'm in a leadership position and I'm so fulfilled by being able to make decisions that impact other people because I trust myself and my judgment. Great. Sometimes we're fulfilled because we're also like, oh, I'm around like my colleagues, people I really enjoy personally and professionally. We can come together. I trust them. Sometimes we're fulfilled because we're like, I get to mind my business and do what I need to do and turn in, and I'm out in my 9 to 5, right? Why am I saying each of those? Because fulfillment varies and they can come from different places. But what I've usually found is that the burnout you're speaking to under fulfillment is because, or like I'm, when you really are at a point where you're like, this is awful, right? I'm dissatisfied. Do less, because I found that sometimes the dissatisfaction, you got to ask yourself, why were you doing more anyway? And I don't mean just in like, I want to put this in context, because sometimes even I hate when I hear advice and people are like, uh, just do less. What I mean is, if you're somebody at work, let's say your fulfillment is your colleagues, and you're like, I'm always the one inviting everybody every place. I'm always the one at meetings doing this, and this. Well, is that your job, or are you just doing that because there's something you're looking for from people to do that? Because it would save yourself some energy if you didn't. Right? Like you're the leader. Are you the leader that has to have an open door policy every day? Yes, I know you love managing and developing people. But like, does everybody have to meet with you one on one all the time? Or like, can they figure some things out themselves? Or like, you're the person who's the achiever. Does everything have to come through you and your process? Or like, can you share something with somebody else? Like, that's the context I mean when unfulfillment or like dissatisfaction comes in the form of do too much. Like, who are you doing
Mhm.
that for? What version of yourself needs to be everything to everyone? So that's the first
That's
thing
right.
I would say. Like, it's one thing to do the job. Like, but it's a whole nother thing to like do the performance. I'm so like,
Mhm.
I'm so like, I need like this company's not gonna go on without me. Well, if there's a severe round of multiple layoffs, I think it will. All right. Like, so I think
Mhm.
it's that like, are you doing more than the job because your ego or something about you've convinced yourself you need to be more all things to all people to feel successful? And I think that's really what I would say to people. Usually, when we are dissatisfied, and I think it's a great place to be in, you start to take stock of your values again. I got in this when I really, when I first got here, I had the amount of time where I could stay after. Now I don't, and I feel like people are still pulling on me. So what
Mhm.
conversations can you have where somebody can take that over, or you set your boundaries? Or
Mhm.
some people, I'm not saying don't step down if you don't want to, but let's say you're a leader and you make a lot of decisions. Like when we first got here, like I felt like I had a clear grasp of what was happening with the organization. Now y'all have me making decisions that I don't really feel comfortable with. Well, if you're not work on the group community level, oh, that's a great question. How does this work on a group community? I'm gonna finish this one, and then I think that's a great one that we can speak about. But it's like basically you're allowed to reorganize and show up differently. Sometimes I
Mhm.
found, especially if you're somebody who makes decisions, if you're also functional and you're reactive to what people need from you, sometimes you're missing the bigger picture of putting a process in place that has nothing to do with you. So I would say, in terms of fulfillment, use dissatisfaction to take stock of your values, to pay attention to, do you need more creativity or passion or novelty? Sometimes we're also bored, you know,
Mhm.
or and also what are structures and factors in place that you can do less of so you can get some energy back to yourself.
That's right. That's right. Now I know Bob and Fam had a question. Um, there was another empowerment piece that you touched on right there, and that is that people who are empowered or really pursuing that, they take whatever comes at them, disappointment, frustration, grief, whatever, and they transmute it, or in other words, they take that and convert it into getting busy. They take care of business. They get up earlier. They exercise. They don't just leave it, I'm stuck, I'm upset, I'm this. They take it and they take that, just like a best example is a hybrid car. When you're
Mm,
driving it with the pedal, that's actually building up energy that it stores in the car for when it runs on battery. I don't know if people knew that. So it takes one form of energy and converts it into another. That's what engineers do all the time.
mm-hmm.
So as people who are trying to be empowered, we should always be thinking about how can I engineer this situation? Someone
Yes.
died. I am mournful. That's never going to leave, but how can you take that at least and put that into, I'm going to do a devotional. I'm going to say their name and I'm going to identify a quality about them I love, and I'm gonna embody that quality. I'm just giving hypotheticals. Everything that comes at us, if you re-engineer it, you will always be on fire. You will always be
Yes.
on point because there's always something coming at you,
That's
right?
right. That's
That's
right.
why people get addicted to cigarettes because everything triggers smoking.
Oh,
You're
yes.
happy you want to smoke. You sad you want to
You want to
smoke.
smoke. That's
You
right.
fail a test you want to smoke. So if you take that in a positive way, you'll be I think, a very productive person. So I'm glad that you touched on that. So you're hitting on a lot of empowerment points without even necessarily trying to per se. So
Mm-hmm.
that's important. Now I did have said Queen Hilaire says that should be put on T-shirts. Stop doing too much.
Stop doing too much.
She likes that. Yeah, that's real. And and then complaining about it.
Yep.
Yes, yes, yes.
That's right.
Very good. Now I want to get back, brother. Where is that?
It was about community level. Yes.
Mhm. What did
So
you think about that?
I love this question. The first, and so a helpful way to frame it is everybody's first bank is their family. And what I found particularly, and there's two reasons I'm saying that, because what I found for students, especially students who feel the need to go to college like I did, is if you grow up lower middle class, you want to help your family. You're like, college, I go to college and like I get this type of job and I can help my family and I can have enough to support everyone on their journeys. But I also, so I say that one, from um, the first bank is our family, from just that understanding of money, but also in looking at how wealthy people, they do friends and family rounds, right? It's often the first round of entrepreneurship where they raise capital when they have a new organization is they go around and they ask their family to come up with, let's say, $300,000. So when I think of the group level, I think of the family. And when I think of the family, I think of what can people do? I think of intergenerational conversations where we now have to bring everybody along. And so what does that mean? It's very challenging. What you'll hear a lot of people, not a lot, but it's a significant, what is it called? It's called the black tax in some form, like the person who maybe gets let's say a six-figure or high level job, instead of that money going to investing, it goes to helping other people in their family maintain living, right? Maintain their bills. So again, why am I noting that? I'm noting that because when we think of the group and community level in our as a culture, as a people, it starts with the economic understanding of our family. And so let's say we're looking at in-demand jobs. It starts with somebody saying, okay, you know what? Maybe big picture in the long term, we want to do real estate. We want to save this house and then maybe we want to rent it out. What are the skills that you would need in order to maintain a house, right? What are those kinds of specialized skills that you would need? Or who could get the real estate license, right? Who can get the initial funding that we need for people to get the licensing now? Who is it? Somebody that understands, um, banking, to understand how creative financing works for commercial properties or mixed properties. So what am I saying there? I think the first thing is, what does the family want to do collectively? The general goal is usually for everybody to be self-sufficient, meaning enough money to save and invest, or at least be able to survive a temporary crisis. That's a goal. But I think when we talk about the group and unity level, and we talk about wealth or being sustainable long term, it's how can more than one person contribute to that goal in a way that supports a business like mindset. And the same thing can be said for healthcare. I think you can have someone in your family who's a nurse, someone who's a physical therapist, and someone who also, is a surgical tech. You all in healthcare, and that way you all can keep abreast of the ways different hospitals will be funded, or not only different hospitals will be funded, different ways of using those services. So who's going to maybe take the holistic route and maybe do it more, maybe they want to do it more entrepreneurial and have supplements along the way, or actually who's working inside this hospital for these patients because maybe they have an excellent trauma ward. And so what I'm saying ultimately is, when we talk about group or community level, it has to be a group that's not just like we want to make money, because that's what keeps it individual. It has to be a group that's like, we want to make money together, and what's a way where your interest works alongside mine. A common one, again, as I mentioned, is real estate, but it doesn't have to be that. It can be people in healthcare who are like, we want to run a private senior citizen home, which is a mix of healthcare and real estate and other things. Or it could be that everybody is like, listen, we don't want to really own homes, but we want to be the go-to when somebody's like, well, I'm an electrician and I'm a plumber and I also actually can do the roof. So maybe one person comes to me, but I can still refer other people who would need those services. Or even if people were like, listen, we want to do cooking. Somebody could be like, all right, you go to school. Let me learn about how much it would take to save up to get the food truck or the licenses that will go through that.
Right.
Let me figure out a little bit if in our market, sure, if it's better to have the breakfast because we on this block, or if we need to be the people for the fish sandwich. Again, that's all different thinking. And actually, which one of us needs to get the food safety license? Or who needs to maybe do 2 years as a short order cook while this person figures out where we can get those types of trucks from? And that's what I'm talking about. The conversation on the group level, especially with families. Yeah, we want to make money, but it's, are people willing to fall in line in the business operation for what it means to make money together? Right. Like, and so I love that question. It's one I hope to continue to flesh more out, but the family is the first bank. And the problem that you are pointing to is we all did do the individual route. Some of us made it and some of us didn't. And if you cared about your family, which they found Black people overwhelmingly, right? Black and Latinos, we give that money to them, then you're missing out on investing in growing money. So how do we come together and say, this is actually the way you need to reskill yourself so that you can contribute and there's more money we can make in the long term? So great question. And
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
that makes perfect sense because you're giving money to family members anyway.
Anyway, that's right. That's right.
Oh, can I get to it? You gave her the money, so why not sit down and organize that. And here's another empowerment principle. You're hitting them out the park here, Sister Larice, and that is seeing capacity,
Yes, yes,
the ability to walk by a building that's completely dilapidated and say, wow, that still has a good structure. What if you see, like the real estate people or teachers or coaches who see a kid always in trouble, always fighting, getting kicked out of school, suspended, parents beating them, but you see that kid stands up for what they believe in.
yes,
That kid raises their hand when everybody's in agreement. That kid raises their hand. They're not afraid to challenge the teacher
yes,
respectfully, and you work with them. You see something. So another thing is the ability. Like most of us, we see our families as an assembly of people to whom we're related by blood, right? We don't see them as, yo, some of the biggest businesses in this country are family
our
businesses.
family. Yes, they are.
So why are we not? Well, we kind
In-
of know sociologically we weren't exposed to some of those teachings, but it begs the question of what Baba F. Pham asked. He also wanted to know about cooperative businesses. It speaks to that
yes.
in the early, I want to say 20th century, late 19th century, black people who were illiterate, I mean, couldn't read, write, didn't know when they were born,
Mm-hmm.
couldn't count, right? Were taking their little pennies here and there and creating cooperatively owned businesses.
That's
They
right.
had funeral benefits,
Yeah.
um, all mutual aid societies help you with your fees and your costs. Built schools, built churches,
Yes,
created penny banks. So we have a precedent, don't we, Sister Louise? Would you
we
agree? We have a
do.
precedent of alternative ways of grouping together and building the things we need together.
And I think we will go back to that uh because we have to for this generation, right? I think we're going to say like, listen, if you don't want to um what is it that you do want to do? I think they have space to say cooperatively for the family, okay, we have this now. What do you want to do, right? To think about. And so that those discussions are vast because it's anything like we just said. First of all, there is recognizing also what institutions financially can we get backing from. I think that's the first question, in addition to what is the family able to bring in and save and invest together, but also where do you get the most leverage, whether, and usually it's a black owned bank or some form. It's not the traditional banks. We already know what they do. And credit unions or other places, right? Where can we get the most leverage? Who are other people that maybe you trust that are just like family that you would do business with? I also think it's your point. I would say, look, some of it also, when I think about the way families can work together, is where are we aware of what's coming next? Because even if everybody's doing something individually, it's like for people whose parents and stuff just loved gold. Well, if people had been passing gold down now, we'd have a different conversation. And so, yes, some of it is the absolutely the cooperative business and the family as a business unit. And some of it's also the ability to say, listen, if we're going to do our own individual thing, what is our family individually investing into that gives back to us, so we can, in that way we're working together. In that way we're producing funds. In that way we're making sure that there's growth over time. And again, some of those things are maybe more traditional, like, okay, as a family, we're in these ETFs, or as a family, we bought this building, you know, um, or as a family, even we're working some, we have these royalties, right? Like those are all valid ways of wealth. But again, I love that question. We have to think of family units as business units because it is money that is, I'll zoom out a little bit, but some of the challenges people are talking about with today's labor market is not just that people can't find jobs, but people are over leveraged. Now they got to give their car back. Now the foreclosing is high,
Hmm.
right? And so these are the big picture problems. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
And once again, we got another empowerment principle that I just escaped my mind. That's crazy how that happens. I was just thinking of it as you were saying it, but it just escaped me. Well, that's all right. If there are no, I don't see any questions beside Baba FM's. So let me say this, Sister Louise, is there anything that you want to say that the questions did not facilitate you saying? Anything you want to say that we haven't covered that's important to you?
The bottom line is, don't, just because living means changing. And so I would say part of being here, if you are in any way different and maybe in some ways contradictory from who you were before, that's not a bad thing, right? We're not talking about hypocrisy here, where you tell people not to do stuff that you do, and that's very different. I mean, like growing up, we were all taught, yeah, work really hard, and sometimes without any clear understanding of what our work ethic was for. And if you find later on that you're working, maybe there's less effort, but still there's higher output, and you feel like a contradiction to yourself, right? Because you're like, oh, I'm not busy all the time, but when you're still producing, it's okay to be a contradiction to yourself, which is all to say, as we live and grow, our values change, our mindset change, our understanding of what we want from ourselves change. We should keep changing. And part of what I try to impart to clients all the time is, you are changing. That's expected. But what does it mean for you? How do you still show up in integrity? And how do you still show up as a contributor and producer? Somebody who at the end of the day can answer confidently to themselves. So I always say, Brother Ajay, I appreciate this. I think your wife was in the chat saying at the next meeting. Yes, I'm happy to come to your next meeting. And I just do hope the biggest takeaway here is like, life is meant to be lived through experience. Seek new things, and with a level of detachment, something great can come from it, if not immediately, but certainly inevitably. And that's what I hope to impart here.
Well, let me say, if no one else has said it yet in the chat, that this has been another really productive and insightful interview. And remember, family empowerment is such a huge, wide umbrella.
Yes.
Every piece of human activity that when you participate in it, it makes you better. It helps you think clearer, helps you be better, think better, and do better. It's self empowerment,
That's
right?
right.
So for those of you who think, well, why are we talking about career? Well, because self empowerment isn't just self care. Let's get my nails did and get my hair right and get a massage. That's part of it. But it's also yoga, Pilates, going to the gym, jogging. It's also mental health conversations and support groups. All of that is self empowerment. So, Sister Lawrese, we thank you for being one of our thought leaders in this area. That's a very often neglected area. Career is like kind of like health. Some of us don't really talk about it until we got to. Man, I need some money.
Right.
What am I gonna do? Right? Or like health. We don't gonna go to the doctor until the foot hurts
Right.
or our leg is swollen up. I have that experience. So you're helping us also understand the need to be proactive, to have proactive conversations around these issues so we're not in emergency mode all the time, but we're proactive. So we
Yes.
really thank you for that. Could you tell us the name of your book once again and
Yes.
where people can get it, please?
Yes, yes. The name of my book is I Don't, you see it? I don't have to wait. I don't have to go to college. On the inside, discover well-paying jobs that don't require a four-year college degree. And you can find it on Amazon.
There it is. And also, you could type in Lawrese Brown, right, as the author in the books
Yes,
and come to it, right?
I don't have,
Okay.
yeah, Amazon Lawrese Brown, and it'll pop right up.
There it is. And by the way, family, networking is important because me and this sister have never physically met, but at a previous job, she was the person that was doing so. I think some of the onboarding,
Yeah.
some of the workshops,
Mm-hmm.
right? So what she's talking about, she actually does. But it's also saying when you're at these jobs and the job sucks and you don't like it, don't just look at that. Look at what are the opportunities and what are the things that you do like. What are the resources? Because you
Yes.
might meet people, right? Or find out about opportunities that you may use way after you leave the job. So that's the other thing I think that this brings to mind for me at least. So Sister Louise, thank you very much. We're gonna keep in touch.
Yes.
Um, let me know. Let us know when you're speaking or you get a new book out or whatever, and how we might be able to help promote that for you and help you as do what you do.
Yes, please stay in touch as well. I appreciate it, Brother Ajay, and thank you so much.
Absolutely. Family, you know what I'm gonna say to y'all. Forget what the media and all the pundits and the president and everybody else. Listen, self empowerment is about dealing with the stuff you can control. We can't control Donald Trump. But what we can do is control how we think, what we think about, what we prioritize, how we spend our money and our time, right? Get everything under your control. And if we get that together, three words, we will win. That is a fact.
That's
That's
right.
written up in the scripture. That is a fact. We will win, but we got to get some things together first. Thank y'all for watching. Please subscribe, support Baba our fam, donate to his GoFundMe. Let's get our brother in Sierra Leone. Let's take care of our business. Buy Sister Louise's book. Thank y'all, family. Have a blessed evening. Peace.